Recebe...
Tá valendo.
Recebemos agora, na Histórias com Osho, mais uma pessoa incrível com suas magníficas histórias. E, pelo jeito, a gente vai ter parte 1, 2 e 3, porque é muita história para contar. Recebendo o Prashantam, bem-vindo, Prashantam, querido. Né, Abiro? Bora lá!
Mais um encontro. Eu estou super feliz. Você não sabe, Prashantam. We do it in English. Okay. Yeah. And you can't imagine how happy I was jumping when I got your email yesterday. So lovely your answer. I felt very welcomed. So we are very pleased to have you with us. And we start always with the basic question. You say, Divya.
Como é que foi que o Osho te pegou? Como foi? Como
Essa é a
encontrou?
pergunta mais fácil. That is the easiest question, because that moment I will never, ever forget. And to bring it back to my memory, it is one of the most touching memories I carry inside of me. Of course, I feel that every Osho lover has its own story, its own magic moment, how Osho, as you said very, very rightly, how Osho got us. Yes. I tell you my mini story, because it started actually a few months before I arrived in front of him. Usually, there is always a story of a woman in the life of a man, especially in the special moments of a life of a man. And in fact, as I said, it started in the immigration office in Tokyo. What a strange place. That's right. I was lining up for the extension of my tourist visa in Tokyo, and the lady in front of me was a very attractive red hair, long hair, dressed in Indian clothes. And I couldn't help starting some kind of a conversation with her. This conversation didn't go on for more than 10 minutes, just the time when her turn came up to go to the counter. She also was applying for the extension of her visa. And off she went, and then a few minutes later it was my turn. So I went to another counter. I got involved into that bureaucracy of that moment. And when finally I was free from that situation, first thing I wanted was to meet that girl again. She was gone. I couldn't find her. Anyhow, the memory remained. And a few months later, I found a book, which was at that time in Japan very rare to find English books in the bookstores. And the book was Meetings with Remarkable Men by this strange person that I hardly could pronounce the name, Gurdjieff. Okay. Now, the reason I was attracted to Gurdjieff was that I had heard, I came overland from Europe until I eventually arrived in Japan. It took quite a while, 3 years. And I crossed the whole Asia until I arrived there. And I had to jump over India because at that time, Portugal and India were still fighting over the issue of Goa. Goa had been Portuguese, India had thrown the Portuguese out. So they were in some kind of conflict that didn't allow me to go into India, get a visa to visit India. So I I flew from Pakistan to Nepal, and then from Nepal to Burma, and I continued my way. Anyhow, on this path, on these travelings, at some point, I got interested and attracted and very much involved with learning about carpets. And I considered at some point that that would be one of my ways of providing for my material needs. Trading with carpets felt very attractive to me at that time. So eventually, when I arrived in Tokyo, reading this book, Meetings with Remarkable Men, I told myself, I crossed all these countries that the Gurdjieff was talking in the book, but I did not meet any remarkable men. I missed. I really felt that I had missed all those 3 years on the road through Asia. So in Tokyo, I decided to start again my trip. And meanwhile, Portugal and India had come to some good terms, and I could get a visa to go to India. My idea actually was to go and spend Christmas in Goa. Those days we are talking about the 70s, 1974, 75. And Goa was like the attractive place for the people on the road, for the hippies on the road. So I, of course, wanted to go to Goa for Christmas. And so I arrived in India. Of course, first I went to Nepal, and in Nepal I got into the gurus and all that mysticism that I had not connected with, because as I told you, I had missed India. And so Nepal, if you are familiar with the map of Kathmandu and India, it's a straight line, really, from Pokhara to Benares to Varanasi. So I went down to Varanasi, and watching those people being burned, those bodies being burned by the Ganges, I noticed, and it's amazing because I spent quite a few days in there, and the only strong picture that I kept from all those days was a couple that I didn't talk with, dressed in orange. They were actually taking pictures. But what struck me was orange clothes. And it felt in the midst of all that, festival of colors and smells and situations of the Varanasi Ghats, it felt to me, very touching. From Varanasi, the next step is the Taj Mahal. I went to the Taj Mahal, and I always like to talk about this situation in the Taj Mahal related to Osho. And that's why I took the courage to start a little bit, a few months before I met Osho. So it kind of, everything changed as an understanding of answering your question. Of course, Taj Mahal, what to do? You go into the Taj Mahal. Those days, Indira Gandhi was still alive. So it was possible to visit the Taj Mahal exactly as it was supposedly to be the purpose of how it was built for, on a full moon during the night. It was open. So I went to the Taj Mahal on a full moon night, and I spent the night under the full moon. There was not many people, and I was playing my Japanese flute that I still play today, my kyotaku. No guards or no much restrictions. I ended up in the king's chamber, that it is famous, this beautiful piece of music of the flute of inside of the Taj Mahal with this amazing echo that that once you have heard it, you will always remember that place. Anyhow, I was playing my flute there for many hours, and at some point, I heard a voice. Of course, projection, dreaming, whatever, but I was convinced that I heard a voice saying, "Good, now come home." I opened my eyes. Usually I play my flute with the eyes closed. I opened my eyes, I look around, and actually I saw the guard making a sign, kind of saying, time to go out, to close, I don't know. So I walked out, full moon, very magic situation, very magic moment. And the next morning, having been in the Taj Mahal, having gone through these amazing vibrations and really mysterious moments, I felt that I had done my visit to Agra. So what to do next? Let's go to Goa. I went to the train station, ready to catch a train to Bombay, to Mumbai, called now. Okay. In the line of the train, there was a couple, again dressed in orange, not the same that I had seen. By the way, later, that couple that I saw in Varanasi was Japanese Mira, who left her body.
The painter.
The painter.
She
It was
drowned,
her,
yes.
with her at that time partner, who was a German man called Govind, also a painter himself and a teacher of painting and of Japanese art. Later, of course, we became good friends, but those were the couple I met, I saw, I didn't meet them, in Varanasi. Now, in the train station of Agra, I see this couple, orange. Of course, foreigners, we start talking. And I tell them my story, I'm going to go. And I had created this dream because at that time it was possible that I would arrive in Goa by boat. There was a ferry that would leave Bombay and would arrive in Goa by boat. And I had this fantasy to see Goa like the navigators, Portuguese, that arrived in Goa from the sea, and I wanted to see what was that kind of vision. Now, the lady, who also later became very good friend, and I remember their names well. Now, the lady tells me, that's not the way to do it. Because if you go to Bombay, you get lost in that amazing confusion of the big city. Why don't you go to Pune and catch a bus? Because then there is a direct bus to Goa, and you avoid the big city. Now, it sounded the perfect tip. You know, on the road, you are always looking for the latest tip that makes your life more comfortable. And so, instead of buying my ticket to Bombay, I bought it to Pune. Coincidentally, the train were like half an hour difference. And off I went to this place that I had never heard about, called Pune. 30 hours train, arriving in Pune 1 or 2 days later, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, immediately go to the bus that at that time lived in front of the train station. They tell me, yes, the bus leaves at 8 o'clock at night. So I have about 6 hours. And after all this long journey in the train, you are dying for a shower. Those days, it was very common around the station, to the train stations in India, to have what they call the Dharamsala, which is a place with a cot for 3 rupees. You lay down and you could have a shower, could have a wash, usually quite clean. I used a few of them.
Mhm.
So I go to a first guy I meet. I remember him so strongly. Was a foreigner. He had a ponytail, he had glasses, he had a white shirt, blue jeans, and he looked a non-Indian person. So I go to the guy and say, sorry, do you know where I can have a shower? And he tells me, take a rickshaw and say ashram. And I say, what ashram? He says, just say ashram. So I do exactly that. I jump in the rickshaw, I take the rickshaw and I say ashram. Now, I was expecting something within 5 minutes from the train station. You have been in Pune, you know that the train station actually even now takes maybe 20 minutes between the Osho commune and the train station. So after 5-10 minutes, I was getting already a little bit, kind of protective, thinking, well, where is he taking me? So finally, I touched the guy, the driver, and he said, where are we going? And just then he stopped. And the fact that I leaned over to talk with him made it possible that I saw the sign, and it said, Bhagwan Shri Rajneesh Ashram. Hey, man, it felt like there was a knot inside of, there was a knot inside. He said, oh, shit, this is the sex guru.
You know about him.
Because in Nepal, we talk about gurus. One of them was the sex guru. There was my hair was already in this style, kind of even bigger. So the kids would call me, what was the name? There was an Indian guru who had hair like this. And the kid,
Indian kids would call you.
Yeah, Indian kids would come after me and call me this name, etc., etc. I forgot the name of this Indian guru. Anyhow, so I see this and I go, shit, this is the sex guru. Anyhow, still, I want a shower. So I get out of the, the rickshaw with my little bag. I used to travel really with minimum stuff, my bag, my flute, and that was about it. I go to who appeared to me to be a huge guy. Was the guard, the guy standing there. He was later a very good friend of mine. He was Swami Sant, very well popular Indian sannyasin in the ashram. And I go to him and I say straight in the face, sorry, where can I have a shower? I mean, I was really convinced that that was what I came there for, and that was the place. And the guy looked at me and says, you must be crazy. Get out of here. Exactly. But it's so present, all this sequence in me. And it was already almost 50 years ago. It's amazing. Exactly. Oh, man, you must be crazy. Get out of here. At that moment, I was really in confusion. I didn't know what to do. So what to do? Go back to the station. So I turned around. I was going to the same rickshaw that had not moved away from the few moments. I don't think it was even 2 or 3 minutes. I was going back to the rickshaw. And when I had my back to the door, I hear a voice, Jose, Jose. That was, still is, my passport name. Okay. And it was the name that I used before. Osho told me that my name is as you know, Prashantam. Well, I turn around and say, who knows me? You know, brother, it was the girl from the Japanese immigration office.
Wow.
Ah.
Wow.
Ah.
The one in Tokyo you met
They are
before.
in Tokyo.
Wow.
And I tell you more. She tells me, she comes, I meet her, I remember her name. Her name was Darshan. We say hello. Of course, by then the guard doesn't stop me anymore. I go inside of the ashram, which at that time it was practically empty. There was very few people. And she tells me that about 3 or 4 days ago, she was having very strong dreams about me. So those days, practically anybody could just go to Osho's garden and talk to him. So she had gone in and talked with him and told him about these dreams. And he tells her, sit by the gate, he's coming soon.
Nossa!
Osho's magic.
Ai!
Her job in the ashram at that time was to polish malas. As you know, the first malas that we wore were actually
with the
made,
woods around the
they were
bottle.
wood, exactly. They were made in the Osho, in the we call it the mala shop in the ashram. And her job was to polish the locket. Okay. Now, she had been there for 3 days. All this is what she told me. Okay. She hadn't been there for 3 days. And on the 3rd day, she was already start looking a bit disappointed that nobody came through, etc. Imagine. That's when I showed up. Okay. Now, there is a few extra things in this story because, you know, as I said, we all have our precious story of meeting Osho. And I nourish my own story with such gratitude and venerance that
yes,
this opportunity to share it with you,
yeah,
and is truly, you know, bringing me back to the most beautiful meditation. It's like sitting in front of Osho and remembering all those moments, you know. Anyhow, we walk inside of the ashram. As I told you, it was a very empty place at that time and very small. There was basically only 2 buildings. The first building, there was not yet a Buddha hall. There was a hall with a kind of a tent where dynamic was starting happening somehow. But all that I didn't know. Anyhow, I walk in, and there was a signboard with a small paper fixed on this signboard. You know, where you put little pieces of paper put a sign. And I got attracted, and I went to read what it was there, and it read exactly this: touch. I'm repeating, I'm seeing this paper and repeating as if I'm reading it now. Touch. The world needs touch because it needs love. Massage is 90% of love and 10% of technique. This was my inspiration, still is today, for all the work that followed, and I had no idea. But when I read that note, I felt, and I must say that I was surprised, I was shocked, but I truly felt I found my master. Now, I had not yet seen Osho. I had not seen Osho. I was not yet ready to acknowledge it. I was still a freak on the road. Okay. But I must recognize that this moment was the first Zen stick, that would change my life. Anyhow, with this girlfriend that by now we were so delighted to see each other and so happy and so horny, and so everything was part of the joy of being together. She took me to her room that I remember was at the back of, at that time, popular Mobo's Hotel. Since then it had disappeared. It disappeared, but it was at the back of the Mobo's Hotel, a little bit far away from the ashram. And we had all kinds of energies going on. The reality is that in the middle of the night, she threw me out of her room. Okay?
Mas como assim?
It was really intense. Okay? In the middle of the night, I found myself in the middle of in the road. I had missed the bus to Goa. I didn't know anything about this city, Pune. I was very pissed off because I missed my bus and I was going to go and all this stuff. And what to do? Only place I knew was the ashram. So in the middle of the night, and by then it was around 2 o'clock in the morning, I walked back to the ashram. When I arrive in front of the ashram, this young man, again, Toshan, we became great friends later, American guy, sees me and says, "Wow, you are already coming for dynamic?" I had never heard of dynamic. I've never heard about dynamic. I don't know what the guy is talking about.
Que
Okay?
cara empolgado para dinâmica.
And I said, yes. What else could I say? Okay? All right. Now, those days, in front of the front door of the ashram, there were two small walls that were kind of the entrance to what is now property of the commune, where the big Buddha Hall pyramid is. But those days, there were these two small walls that actually later I found out were called the smoking temple. And these walls were somehow wide enough and long enough that I lay down there, okay? It was 2 in the morning, what to do? So I lay down there. Those days you could sleep anywhere. So I lay down there, and Toshan, when I was laying down, comes and covers me with some blanket. Hey man, I had been on the road for 3 years. In that moment, it was so sweet, that feeling. It was so sweet. It was like, wow, I'm home. Okay. And this I'm home came back later. But anyhow, so slept for a couple of hours. Eventually it was time for dynamic. There I went to dynamic. Those days there was no checking, anybody would come in and out of the ashram. There was no controls, there was nothing, you just walk in. So I walked into this, in this place that it was already called Buddha Hall, but it didn't look like the Buddha Hall of now. And during my first experience of dynamic, which was one of the most terrible moments ever in my life, where I thought everybody's going crazy. And now I know that I'm going to Goa. I won't miss the train, the bus tonight, for sure. I am 1000% that I'm going to go.
Prashantam, I'm just confused a bit. this all happens in one day. This was the first night where you were there. You were thrown out of the girls.
Pune?
Yes, all this
Yes?
is happening in the first 12 hours of my life in Pune.
Que ano que foi?
75.
Tá.
26 of November, 27 of November 1975.
Uau.
Wow.
Uau, uau, uau.
Yes. Now,
And then,
after dynamic, okay, there is free chai. Wow, free chai, man. And those days in India, anything free was like, I want some, you know. Anyhow, free chai, great. Then let's go and see the guru. I'm here, man. At least let me see him one time. Okay. I go to the discourse. There was about maybe 30 people, not many, compared to the numbers later, right? Not many. You know. Of course, I'm sitting at the back, you know, like I'm the very last one. He comes in. My first impression was, wow, great. He's a small guy. And myself being a small guy, I thought that was a good sign. Okay, because I had made this image of the guru like, you know, like some kind of 2 meters 50, omnipresent. No, he was a small, very gentle man walking in, and very soft, very, very, very present, very relaxed, really images that I nourish as if it was happening yesterday. He sits in his chair and comes out his voice. At that time, he was speaking only Hindi. He had not started with English lessons, the English discourse. He was speaking Hindi. And he said his voice, Mitro. Mitro means friends. Okay. But the shock was that when I heard that sound Mitro, it was the same voice in Taj Mahal, man.
wow.
That one that said, good, now come home.
Uau.
Mitro, Maitreya,
Mitro. No,
Mitra.
Mitro.
Mitro.
Mitro is the plural from Mitra. Mitra is friend, Mitro is friends. But all this I didn't know. Okay. I had never heard him. I never seen him. I didn't know anything. But the voice, Mitro. And I go, fuck, was the same voice I heard 3 days before when I was in Agra in the Taj Mahal. So there, my whole, I really went into confusion, okay. Of course, I never made it to Goa. First time I went to Goa, I think, was after Oregon.
Wow.
Uau.
So
Yes.
you stayed in the ashram, so you didn't
And then that was it. And then I was it. I just stayed. And of course, for the first 2 or 3 days was this conflict about, am I a sannyasin? Do I need a master? Is this the right master? You know, this whole thing that goes in everybody's head. And but
yes.
it lasted 3 days. After 4 days, I was walking in the office and asking for initiation, for sannyasin, as you call it.
Sanya's application form.
No, there was no application. You just would
No?
go and talk with the Garim or Arup, she was called at that time, and just book for. And then I remember that she said, "Oh, you are lucky. There is still one place for tonight."
Ah.
You know?
Não
Pois é.
tinha escapatória.
You're not going to run away. One moment, I don't know now if it was before or after, but there was one moment where my mind finally came to peace and surrender. There was in one of his discourses, I really don't know the context, but this sentence just came into me, and it said, "You are with me until you go to the road again." Those days, my identification was, I'm a guy on the road. I'm traveling. I'm going to visit every country in the world. I'm on the road. That was my how I arrived in India and in Pune.
Jack Chirac, Beatniks.
I didn't read that book. I was just, you see, I had escaped from Portugal. I had lived in France without having passport to go back, etc. So my life was never of going backwards anywhere. It was always forward. Let's go forward. Let's go to the next country, the next place. And I lived like that for many years. And arriving in Pune, and you know, not only I never went to Goa, but I never left Pune.
Ah.
You know, I never had to go anywhere. I finally in 2008 chose to return to Europe, but still today I am a Pune guy, ashram guy.
Okay, but then you got your first meeting with the master, like you're gonna take sannyas.
Well, you see, when I arrived in front of him, again, I had never been in darshan, so I didn't know what it was going to be, the whole ceremony. I'd been there for 4 days. So the whole thing was happening at 7 in the evening. And when my name was called, I go and sit in front of him. He would immediately touch you, give you the mala, touch you in the forehead, and afterwards would give you the name in a piece of paper. That was his way. And what I remember was that he put the whole palm of his hand in my forehead. And that contact felt like so sweet. So I really had my first life experience of here and now, of I don't want to be anywhere else. I can stay here forever. In that place that that happened with the contact with his hand was beyond, you see, concepts of surrendering and melting. All these things came later. It didn't belong to my vocabulary, all these things, you know. Today I can say, yes, there was an immense surrendering right from the beginning. Mm-hmm. But what did I know then about all these things? And then when he gave me the paper with my name, and he said, your name is Swami Deva Prashantam. Deva means divine. Prashantam means silence, inner silence. I had a spontaneous catharsis of laughter. Really, I start giggling. Still today, I ask myself, he must have thought that I was completely cuckoo. No, really, because it didn't fit the situation, the context. This was because when I lived in Japan, I was with a teacher, a Zen teacher, when I was learning about my flute. We were practicing some meditation, some techniques, mostly physical techniques, exercises. And the students Today I say the disciples, but at that time we called them students. The students of this teacher, sensei, they all had a name, what he called a kyotaku name, a flute name. The flute name starts with the first character, kyo, that means emptiness, silence, and the second character that somehow brings a further meaning to the context of kyo. For instance, the master himself was called Kyoku. Ku means sky. So we could translate that his name was empty sky, and so on and so forth. When I knew that I was leaving Japan, I asked him for my second kanji, my second character. And he said, soon you will get it on the road. Now, it was 1 month later that I was in front of Osho. And this Deva Prashantam means silence, inner silence. It was like these two very special people who were telling me the same message, you know, and that was the paradox that took me into a release that I didn't control. And then he asked me, he went on speaking about the depth of silence is found in the middle of the marketplace, and silence is not the absence of sounds, but the presence of all sounds. And you are not, when I heard you are not, I didn't know what he was talking about. I am not, what do you mean? You know, but anyhow, all this, and after a long presentation of the name, he asked me, so how do you feel? And I said, I am home. Again, in those moments, you don't think much. You know, you are the first one to be surprised by what comes out. You don't plan to say these things. You have no time to think. It just comes out, you know. Today I know that's the quality of the heart. The heart doesn't need to think. So the heart speaks in front of such a being, such a special person. And then he said something very beautiful. He said, many people are looking for home, but home is not ready. Other people are not looking for home, but home is already ready. With you, you are both ready, and the home is ready for you. And that was unexpected, and it felt so true. Like, this guy knows what he's talking about. You know, hey guys, remember, all this happened in 4 days.
Wow.
You know, 4 days.
Wow. Muito intenso.
Yes, yes. And then there was it. There was I felt and still feel today that there is the greatest gift that existence has showered on me is to just be with my Osho in every situation, in every moment of my life. You know, and I'm so fortunate that this never was tainted by any doubt. You know, sometimes you may have confusion in your, but there was never. You know, I was part of so many chaotic moments in the life around this beautiful master. I was always there when situations were intense.
Wow.
But in my own inner world, I was always part of the crew.
Yes. And you know, one of the greatest gifts I had in my life, it's always with me. Whenever I can, I practice. It's called divine healing. I've lived in Japan also. When Osho left his body,
Yes.
about 2 months after, I got an invitation with a friend, Japanese Abhivandam.
Yes.
He invited me to come to Japan.
Uh-huh.
So then I thought, wow, in Japan the houses are so thin, yeah, and
Yeah.
so you have to be quiet, or
They
otherwise everybody will listen what you do. I said,
are made of
wow,
paper.
how is gonna be my life without dynamic? Because dynamic was a kind of assurement that any problem I will solve it. Just
Yes.
do dynamic, yeah.
Yes.
And then I said, wow, what am I gonna do in Japan without dynamic? Then I went to Ambo's house. You remember the Brazilian Ambo?
Of course. Of course.
Yeah, and I asked her for. She had this map of divine healing with the big
Yes.
pictures, the
Yes.
whole sequence.
Yes.
And then I took it and I put on the wall of my Japanese house, and I did it. I think almost for almost 2 years, every day without missing a single day. It was such a process, beautiful,
I
opening.
still practice it every day.
Still, you do, yeah.
Every day, and I teach it, and now there is students of my students of students. You know, it's just, and again, uh, another beautiful gift from Osho, that when you see divine healing, the training actually took off, started after we came back from Oregon, from Rajneeshpuram. Okay, that's when the trainings took off. And I was suggested to present a proposal for a training around the work that I was doing, that before was called shiatsu. And I approached my dear friend Abiana, who was an acupuncturist, who is still, I think, and suggested, hey, let's put together our things, because we are in the same subject, in the same world, and make a training. And we presented our proposal, and we wanted to call it Oriental Healing Arts. Okay, that was our territory.
Mhm.
The answer came back always. It was always, we have to ask him, and then the answer came back from him. Okay. So the answer came back. The healing is, then there was a confusion about what name to call it. Shall we call it Oriental Healing Arts, or we couldn't figure out the right name. And then he said, healing arts is fine, but no need to call it Oriental. Listen, divine will do. What a magic touch. What a magic touch. Divine will do. From there, divine healing was born. Now, you prepare yourself to go into safe territory. Knowledge. That was my territory. Okay? What I knew. The master takes your safety away and gives you the universe. Divine healing. Because nobody knew what it was, divine healing. You know, divine healing was born from from him. Then I made research in the texts from the discourses, and I found out that there were many times when Osho talked about healing, and he always called it divine healing. He had spoken about divine healing. I managed to have about 600 pages of downloads from his books
Wow.
about divine healing. You
All
know,
about divine healing.
all about divine healing. Well, the discourses where divine healing was being mentioned. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And from there, of course, I was inspired, motivated, guided to what is still today Osho Divine Healing Arts.
Wow.
You
Do
know,
you still teach divine healing arts up to today?
I have no choice. Until my last breath, my Osho is so alive.
Yes, because I love it so much, so I'm interested. This is a personal question.
It's like you know, the body gets old, and many reasons to find complaints if I need
Did
some.
you bring it to the Human University?
Sure.
Because they had this martial arts there. It was called
Viresh
Osho-do. Yes, Osho-do.
Viresh loved those exercises.
Eu aprendi lá também. Aprendi com o pessoal do Viresh.
She says she learned with Viresh's people. Amod was practicing a lot.
Yes, he learned with me. He was one of my. He still lives in Brazil, I guess, no?
He lives here in Porto Alegre, where I am.
In Porto Alegre, exactly.
Yes, he lives here.
Yes. And Viresh, when I was at the Human University, Viresh used to come every day to those classes, and
wow,
everybody used to give me positive feedback by saying, you know, it's the only way we managed to have him doing some exercises.
But I mean, for me, it's so great. It's just filling up with light and energy. I feel so refreshed and centered every time I do it. So it's amazing. I love it so much.
But we spoke about dynamic before, you know. Of course, I don't jump the way that I did for so many years, but I feel I live in dynamic. You know, after falling in love so much and learned a real message through that practice of meditation, you don't pray, you don't do it anymore. You are it. You know. And indeed, that's the gift of meditation, particularly the techniques of Osho, from my understanding, is that it will come to a point where there is no more doer. There is the being of it. You are in that space. You know.
Wow. Oh, Divya just told me just before we were waiting for you to come to the Zoom platform for this meeting. And she just told me she saw a video that you explaining the dynamic meditation, and she enjoyed very much, because both of us, we are lovers of dynamic. Still today, I don't do, of course, the same way. I even can't, because my back doesn't allow me to jump like that.
But you know,
always there is a way to do. Yeah.
I was the first Osho lover, sannyasin, to bring dynamic meditation to Russia.
Russia, wow.
Nowadays, right now, every day, there is probably a few thousand people practicing dynamic meditation every day.
Wow.
They love it there. It just fits so nicely with you know.
Yeah.
I go to China. Of course, what else can I share? Dynamic meditation. In the beginning, they asked me, can we call it morning exercises? Because we could not use the word meditation.
Okay.
Morning exercise. Now, the students, the participant asked me, can we do dynamic meditation?
Oh, wow.
Ai, que legal!
Wow. I think dynamic is such a great tool, such a gift to humanity.
Humanity.
Listen, Abiro and Divya, it changed my life. But I know that it could change the world.
Yes, absolutely.
The fact that it changed my life is irrelevant. But that it could change the world, that's the message that one day somewhere would be, I don't know, some guy standing on those United Nations discourses and tell all these guys that talk about solutions for the world, we have it. We have it. We can make a new world. Let's make dynamic meditation to everybody.
Wow, wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Maybe soon this pandemic is over and we can meet and do dynamic with people. Yeah.
So now that you spoke about this, it's been now more than 1 year that
Yes.
we are
I'm 1 year at home. Me.
We are really confined. But in many different situations in my past, I have truly bowed to Osho for the benefits that he has brought into my life. But in this particular period of this last year, once again, Osho saved my life. In all forms, in all ways, in the small details, in living without fear, in coming back to the moment, in being ready to whatever comes. I mean, these are metaphors. But if there is a period that I can truly say, wow, I don't know what I would be without Osho. This has been the period,
Yes, absolutely.
And then it comes also this agony that how to share it, how to share it.
Yeah, I just disagree with you when you say it's not relevant that it changed your life. It's very relevant because you inspired so many people as me and other people also for so many things. And well, I don't know how much can we go more. It's almost 1 hour. It's okay for you if we keep going a little more.
I lose any concept of time when I am with Osho.
Yes.
But Abiro, I do need, and please allow me to take these few moments to say it. I do need to say that what motivates me to expose and to give so much of what may be personal or not is only with the intention to make the world, you and anybody who wants to listen, to make people really receive the message that Osho is so alive today.
Yes.
That is what I care the most.
Absolutely. Again.
I am just another flower that blossom in his garden, but there is millions, there is millions. What is really relevant, but tremendously relevant, beyond the fact that thousands of his books are all over the world, it's so much actual, is so much now the one to listen to, the one to really feel inspired from. Beyond his personality, beyond his body, beyond the man that I watched and I bowed for the last 16 years of his life, but his message, his wisdom, is so much needed and so alive for those who will listen to it, you know. Yes, then of course you have your story, Divya has her story, I have my story, and you know.
Yeah,
You know,
stories are stories.
that Kyo that you participated, look at this story, okay? Because it's another beautiful Osho story, okay? Maybe, was it a Kyo that finished on the 31st of December, the one you participated?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
A
Was
gente
it,
corta.
was it the Kyo where Vivian was also participating?
No, no, was not the same.
Okay.
Ah, não foi com o Vivian?
I did it with Yashin, Anurupa.
Yashen is still in Alto Paraíso, maybe.
No, he's not. He's in Santa Catarina, south, with Vasant Swaha.
Ah, Vasant came to Brazil now?
But he's living there.
No?
He has his own people, yeah?
All
And
right.
then Yashin is with him. I mean, Prashantam, what you gonna talk about the Kyo with Vivian?
Okay. There was a Kyo group that finished on the 31st of December. I don't know which year, but it finished on the last day of the year. Okay. Now, we finished Kyo. Everybody is in the space that you know, myself too, because I participate. I was living at that time, staying at that time with the Prashant and Urmila
I know them.
in Rio. They had a flat, beautiful flat, near Ipanema, near the beach. Okay. All right. It's the new year. I come from Kyo. I say, I go to the crowd, to the multidão. Everybody's celebrating in the middle of, on the beach. From Ipanema, I walk to Copacabana. All right?
1 million people. 1 million people.
2 million.
2 million.
2 million people.
Okay. So by then I had reached Ipanema, Copacabana. Okay. I walked from Ipanema to Copacabana. Okay. I am in the middle of this multidão. All the Yamanja ladies are putting little boats on the water with candles, and all this is going on. And I'm by myself in the middle of this. And believe me, suddenly I hear, Prashantam! In the middle of 2 million people. Of course, it was another sannyasi. But in that moment, what really touched me is that Osho is everywhere. It was not like somebody found me in the middle of, no, it's that, wow, because when you meet another sannyasin, to me, the first thing that comes is Osho.
Yes.
In this moment, you guys are there. Osho is between us. It's with us.
Yes. Yes.
You know.
Yes.
And this was something. See, wow. New Year night, Ano Novo, em Copacabana, 2 milhões de pessoas. Prashantam. Osho shows up. We could have many stories coming up.
Yeah, sure. Maybe. I want to hear your stories from the Japanese master, telling your stories with learning
Em
What
Rajneesh
we
Puram
call
também.
Is it called the Sakuhashi, the flute?
Well, you know, the flute is called Kyotaku.
Kyotaku.
It's from the flute that comes the name of the group.
Okay.
Kyotaku.
Kyotaku.
Taku means sound. Taku. You know those wood tak, 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 that you hear in the temples. Those. This is called taku.
Ah, okay.
Taku is the sound. Kyo-taku is the sound of Kyo. All right.
Yes, if what was not too much, I would ask you to play a little for us.
Tô
For
aqui.
the end of this talk.
Amar! Yes! Ai, gente, que emoção! Uau! Que história linda, meu! Então,
Prashantam, we want to end it with you playing. So before that, we want to acknowledge and say thank you very much for receiving us so lovingly. Thank you, thank you.
É o mesmo prazer que um abraço, tomar um cafezinho juntos,
Tá bem,
caminhar na praia, Dívia. Agora eu reconheço você, me recordo muito, muito de você, é evidente, conheço, sabe? Sinceramente, eu voltava, quando voltava de Puna a Portugal, raramente, a minha mãe se lamentava que eu não falava mais português. Ela dizia, por que é que falas brasileiro? Porque em Puna não havia portugueses. E que, naturalmente, a maior parte dos brasileiros não falavam muito inglês, não é? Então, eu acabava conhecendo todos eles.
Eu lembro de você tocando no Kio a música do Lulu Santos. Nada do que foi será.
Eu não conhecia esse Lulu Santos, eu não conhecia ele. Mas há pouco tempo eu vi um programa que era The Voice do Brasil e acho que o Lulu Santos era um dos juízes.
Sim, ele mesmo.
Né? Eu nunca tinha visto o cara, eu não sabia como ele era. Porra, que bom falar com vocês, cara. Sinceramente, foi um presente, assim, de irmão para irmão, de irmão para irmã. Foi, assim, uma coisa muito, muito bonita.
Isso é muito... Primeiro, a gente se diverte muito. We have lots of fun doing. And we feel this loving atmosphere. It's always calm, you know?
Eu adorei muito todo o pessoal do Brasil que eu conheci. Quer dizer, eu com o Osho viajei, eu fiz grupos em Manaus, fiz grupos em Porto Alegre, fiz grupos em Vitória, Espírito Santo, em Cuiabá, no Rio Branco, em Acre. Tudo isso foi o Osho que me levou por esses lugares, né? Quer dizer, e conheci pessoal super ótimo. Não, o Brasil é um lugar que me ficou no coração.
E você no coração dos brasileiros, pode ter certeza.
Tá bom. Olha, este flauto, quando eu recebi dele, eu só tenho flautas feitas pelo mesmo mestre, que é o Koku Sensei, que só ele é que fazia estas flautas, que são muito compridas, está a ver? O shakuhachi normalmente acabaria aqui, mais ou menos.
Entendi.
Tá? Esta tem mais isto comprido, está a ver? E cada flauta tinha o seu mantra. Quer dizer, uma peça destas é um Stradivarius. Você com $50 mil não compra uma flauta desta.
Uau!
Até porque não encontra elas. Entende? Então, cada flauta tem um mantra gravado à mão pelo mestre.
Como é que é o nome dele, do mestre?
Koku Nishimura. Você encontra no Google, encontra algumas histórias sobre ele. Ele vivia em Kumamoto, no sul do Japão, onde eu vivi também. Neste mantra, que são 4 kanjis, 4 caráteres, é Fu Chou Fu Metsu. E a tradução é Never Born, Never Die.
Wow! That's what's written in the Osho's.
Só que eu tinha este flauto 12 anos antes que o Osho faleceu.
Uau!
É o seguinte, quando você está praticando esta flauta, você está num espaço de meditação e tem o seu mantra. E o meu mantra é Fuchou Fumetsu. Então você se centra, quer dizer, naqueles espaços no seu tempo. E eu não pensava never born, never died. Quer dizer, eu pensava Fuchou Fumetsu. Está entendendo? Depois, um dia, eu vi na tumba do Osho e muitas vezes, eu toquei este flauto em
Lá.
frente, lá no Samadhi de Osho, né? Tudo bem. Então, olha, um grande abraço, uma imensa, imensa gratidão e que estejam em boa saúde, continuem assim super lindos como estão e até breve.
Até breve. Muito obrigado.
Tchau, tchau, tchau.
Namastê.
Tchau.
Namastê. Kyo.
Kyo.
Kyo.